Episode 48 of the Habs Culture Podcast. My name is Mark Anthony Bertadja. I'm alongside Justin Schwartz. There was a lot of blue on the ice. Sorry, I'm going to bring it up right away. There was a lot of blue on the ice yesterday. For those of you who watched the game, uh, like even the Bell Center just looked different. There was missing red. One of my friends said it looks like his TV was like just blocking out every single part of red because the Habs literally had zero red on their uniform. The reverse retros made their first appearance, and obviously they lost in it to the Devils, who are on a 10-game win streak. The Devils are hot, but it's nice to be back. I feel like we haven't. It's been a few weeks now that we've dropped an episode, and look, obviously things came up, but in Habs land, it's pretty exciting right now. There's a lot of ups and downs, whether they're positive or negative. But yeah, I'm personally excited to be back.
Very excited to be back. Very, very excited to be back. And Mark, is it even a surprise that Montreal loses a game in their reverse retro?
How do you feel about them?
How do I feel about the jerseys themselves?
The jersey and the uniform, because they're two different things, right?
I think they missed on both. I think that they had a great opportunity. I think the concept was there. The concept was there.
Both years, I think it was a missed opportunity.
Unfortunately, right? I mean, I think the powder blue, right? If I'm not mistaken, they tried to copy a Expos theme kind of thing. And I mean, there wasn't enough red.
They literally just took out red and put powder blue.
Yeah, so I just don't think it meshes well. I don't think it represents the Montreal Canadiens very well.
It doesn't represent the Expos because there's still no red.
Well, there you go. So now we're dealing with a situation with what are they trying to represent here? But
the new mascot, maybe.
Metal.
That's his name?
I think his name is Metal or Metal. Well, I guess it's the same thing, right?
He was at a concert last night.
Yeah.
Good marketing strategy.
Yeah, adding a new mascot. But it was funny. I was reading the comments and everyone was so worried. They're like, "Where's UP? What happened to UP?" And I was like, thinking, I was like, is that your concern? that's what you're worried about? I don't think UP's going anywhere anytime soon.
I honestly think people are more worried about UP going on IR than Jonathan Drouin, if I'm being honest.
At this point, yeah, might be the case.
Yeah, who is out 4 to 6 weeks for those who didn't know. Let's jump right into it. The Canadiens this season, I think, have now proven that they have an elite duo in the National Hockey League, something I personally have never seen in my life. In Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, and they're adding a little third piece to that little line. It goes by the name of Kirby Dach, who's playing absolutely amazing. He's playing like a third overall pick, like Marty St. Louis says. Someone who, we kind of wished Kotkaniemi would sort of become, but now we got Dach in exchange from those trades of the draft. I'm loving it. I'm loving that trade right now. Well, I liked Kirby even before, like when the trade was like when that trade happened, and we were at the draft. We both loved it, and now he's actually proving that like he's that guy. But in the future, obviously, I'd like to see him in a 2C role. Not with Suzuki and Caulfield, but as of right now, to get his confidence up, I love it. Anything wrong with it?
No, I'm ecstatic, and honestly, kind of just to touch on the point that you brought up there, talking about the 2C role. I guess the worst part about the trade, I guess you could say, is that right off the bat, Kirby Dach didn't necessarily fit into a 2C role. But again, we have to keep in mind, who was he playing with? How many minutes was he getting? Was he being placed in important situations? So I don't think it's something to overthink or overlook at this point in time, considering that he's an amazing complementary piece on that first line. And honestly, at this point, and you know what? I'll take back what I said. I wouldn't even call it a complementary piece. I would call it the necessary piece to complement, to put everything together on that first line.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But you know what? It's good to see, right? I think it's been a while since we've seen, like you said, since the Montreal Canadiens have had two elite players in this league. One of them being a goal scorer. Well, actually, both of them being a goal scorer this season. But let's just let's categorize them for a second. One being a goal scorer and one being a phenomenal two-way player.
Mm-hmm.
But each have accounted for 19 goals this season and 35 points.
No, it's cool to see.
I mean, we don't. I don't think we've stumbled upon that too often in recent memory, in recent history for the Montreal Canadiens. So really excited about that.
Yeah, it'd be cool, obviously, in the future to create another duo, whether that duo is Doc and Slavkovsky, or whether it's um, Doc and the guy they're going to draft this year, or Slavkovsky and the guy they're going to draft this year. But um, or even the guys they have, right? There's still guys in that pipeline that can be top 6 players, in my opinion, at least, especially a guy like Sean Farrell. But um, yeah, look, we'll see that from the future. In today's day, right now in the Canadians, there's a lot of players like right now, especially on Twitter, that most people would like to see off this roster. And obviously the trade deadline isn't around the corner. Before we know it, it will be. What would you like to see, Justin, from Kent Hughes? Whether it's to receive assets or just because you want to free up space for maybe a guy like Rem Pitlick, who just got called up from Laval, still isn't getting slotted in the lineup. Who do you want to see out and why?
I think right off the bat, I think the Montreal Canadiens and the management team has to take full advantage of Mike Hoffman's play right now, and I think that's kind of the no brainer. I think
I
that's an
thought
easy. Eas It doesn't look 5 goals in 14 games so far this season, 3 goals in his last 4.
Mhm.
I think that he has shown in his career and he's shown to date this season that he is a capable goal scorer. There are teams out there that are looking for that help up front in their potential top or middle six. If you look at a team like the Dallas Stars, they're missing that necessary right wing. And I know he's a left wing, but a necessary right wing to complement a line like Tyler Sagan and Mason
Mhm.
Marchment. There are teams like Calgary that are looking for some goal scoring. There are teams out there that are in desperate need of a boost up front, like I mentioned before. So
Even Ottawa, for that matter.
there you go, right? Who sits 30th or 31st in the
It's
National Hockey League at this?
embarrassing. I
It's
didn't even know it was that bad. I just thought they were bad, not that bad.
Yeah. So right now they're sitting at 30th in the National Hockey League with 5 wins, 9 losses, and 1 overtime loss. But kind of to just finish on that point, I think that Mike Hoffman, I think Ken Hughes to date has has been great in situations where he's pressed up against the wall, I guess you can say, and he's had to make these moves quickly. And I think that he'll field offers on Hoffman all season. But I think right now is the time to start really thinking about, okay, what can I get back for him? And is
Mhm.
whatever I'm going to get back for him now, is that the most I'm going to be able to get? So I think he's the first guy that I'd like to see out the door.
Anyone else off the top of your head? We know the
So
obvious. Like, the obvious ones are the Dadanov and um, well, he's pretty much the other obvious one, him and Hoffman.
right. Well, I think for me, if there's two other guys, one being Jonathan Drouin, but I don't think that his value is nearly where it should be. So I think that Drouin's situation, I guess this is my prediction going forward. I think Drouin is going to end up finishing the season as a Montreal Canadian, whether it be on IR or whether it be in and out of the lineup. So I don't think Montreal will be able to fetch anything for him. I think that teams are going to obviously be excited to jump on him in free agency next year and
Mhm.
sign him to a prove it deal, but I don't think that teams are going to be willing to give up assets for Jonathan Drouin. And I guess the other name, and before I throw it back onto you, would be Sean Monahan. Although I'm really liking his play with 19 points. Oh God, nine
I
points
wish.
in six. Yeah, so do I. 9 points in 16 games. He's thriving in that second line role or third line role
Mhm.
interchangeably. He's doing kind of everything that Montreal has needed him to do. He's providing
Power
leadership
play
in the
one.
locker room, power play one, winning faceoffs, so showing what his worth is on a potential playoff team. I know Colorado's looked into the possibility of grabbing Sean Monahan because they're looking a little bit thin right now. Weirdly,
Mhm.
as weird as that is to say, but yeah, I think him and Hoffman are two guys that could be next out the door. Even though they've brought a lot of value to our lineup so far, it might be in Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon's best interest to ship them off as ASAP.
Yeah, I agree. Dadanov, Hoffman, Monahan. Um, Again, but if you get to the deadline and you're like, well, I don't really love this deal. I don't see a rush in moving him because his contract is so there's
Well,
literally
that's a
no
good point.
risk involved at all. And he adds, I guess, that veteran presence. Me, Drouin, I literally don't see any. What does he bring to this team? He
0.
makes that nice pass once in a while, but literally on the power play, he loses at the blue line every single time. Last night, I was watching Kirby Dach at the blue line doing a way better job. So, what is he? Because he's technically the guy who can carry the puck. I'll put quotations, carry the puck, even though we have a bunch of other guys that could do that. So, what's his worth to this organization? To me, it's zero. There's nothing there. So, if you can move him, again, be my guest, move him.
Right.
The other name, and I don't know if you're gonna like this, and
Go ahead.
the viewers, listeners might not like this either.
Can I guess where
Josh
you're going with this?
Anderson.
Oh,
Were you gonna guess that?
I was actually gonna go with Gallagher,
I
but
think
yeah,
Gallagher's contract is
it's too
stuck
hefty,
with
right?
us. Yeah. I think Josh Anderson, we're getting to that point where if you wait maybe an extra year, maybe an extra year and a half, it's gonna become that Gallagher contract where you can't move it. He's there sometimes, but when he's not there, like I'm talking about, like remember Armia? When he's on his game, he's on his game, winning puck
Right.
battles, getting to the front of the net, shooting a lot. When Anderson is there, he's there. You notice him. But when he's not like in it, he's just I don't know, he's a passenger out there. He's skating. So look, I'm not saying he doesn't bring value to this team. I'm just saying that if there's an opportunity to get rid of that contract and open up a roster spot for a guy who's probably going to be a third line guy moving on, right? Because now that we have these youngsters coming up, I don't see how you decline that or how you be opposed to that.
I think fielding offers is a given here,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think that you're 100% right. I think that when he shows up, he's there. When he's not, he's kind of invisible. He doesn't look. He's a play driver. He's a guy that can get to the net. He has a decent shot, but without the puck, and look, I'm not trying to go into a full on analysis of his game, but without the puck, he's not really a factor. He's not really someone who contributes all that much. And I think that absolutely, I think that that $5.5 million contract could come back to bite the Montreal Canadiens in the butt a little bit, in terms of being a comparable to a Gallagher type situation. And I think that if there's an offer on the table, that presents itself, whether it be a first round pick plus or a first round pick and a decent, whether it's a depth player with no risk, or let's just shoot for the stars here and say a good prospect, then I think that the Montreal Canadiens will have to heavily consider that.
With Matheson coming back into the lineup fairly soon, who comes out?
If I had to pick right now, oh god, it's really tough. It's really, really, really tough. If I had to pick right now, though, I think I would go. I think
I
I would go. Do you have your answer?
Well, I've seen some people, which I don't agree with, they want Edmondson traded.
They want Edmondson traded.
Yeah, which I don't agree with. I think he's like he's literally one of their leadership, like,
I
he's
think
one
he's a
of their
leadership
guys.
staple. To cut
Yeah,
you off,
staple, that's the right word, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know because, look, Kovacevic came in as the guy who was supposed to be in and out, but is he really gonna be that guy in and out? Like, he's playing well.
He is playing well.
Everyone's
See,
playing well on defense. There's literally no one. It comes down to, do you put Kovacevic back in the stands and then possibly on waivers, or do you send a Harris down or a Jackeye down and see if he can get more minutes in Laval? But even at that, Harris at one point was hitting 20 minutes a night.
right, yeah, right now on the season through 16 games, he's averaging almost 20 minutes a night, 19
Exactly.
minutes and
So
50 seconds, right? So
there's literally no argument of saying, well, he'll play more down there. How much more is he gonna play?
look, I think
Three,
that
four
there's an
minutes.
right, exactly. Look, I think that there's definitely an argument to be made for Kovacevic, right? You can look at it on both sides. You can say, well, he's become some sort of a staple up in Montreal. He's playing well in a sheltered role, and there's no need to take him out. But I also do think that you could make a potential case to send Arbor Jackeye down, and it's not something that people are going to want to hear, and I don't think it's something that I even want to be saying out loud. But the truth of the matter is that yes, he's great peripherals wise. He's great blocking. He's great at hitting, but there are some mental lapses in his game.
There are, yeah.
There are times where he
Mhm.
does get stuck out there. There's times where he's out of position. And again, is that a problem? Is that something that the Montreal Canadiens should be worried about? No, he's a young player in this league who's learning and is learning to become a better player game in and game out. But do I think that he potentially benefit from a role in the minors, or sorry, in the AHL with playing 22 minutes a night, I don't think that would hurt him at all. So I think that there's a case to be made for both players. If I had to pick though, if I had to pick the easy way, I would take Kovacevic. But if I wanted to make, a statement, or if I wanted to, I don't know, if I really wanted to make a move, a notable move, I would send Arbor Jacki down.
Well, honestly, it might not even be a bold move. And now we're gonna like if we're thinking through Kent Hughes' mind here, contract wise, they're on their entry level deals, right? So I was actually talking over the weekend. I saw Eric Engels, and I asked him. I was curious about Slavkovsky's the debate about Slavkovsky's 9 game. So remember when he hit the 9 game mark,
Yeah,
and everyone was like, "Is he going to play his 10th?" And in my head, I'm like, "Why does it matter? Because no matter what, his first year gets burnt. He's going to Laval. He's playing professional hockey.
right.
So no matter
Well,
whether he stays in the top or on the bottom, it's getting burnt.
right.
It's not like he's going back to the CHL. Then there's an argument to be made."
Mhm.
So I asked him, I go, "Why were people debating?" And he's like, "I don't know why they were debating about the 9 games. The important game is the 40th game. The 40th game is where the contract rights start switching. So the player becomes eligible for arbitration. The players start stuff like that. A lot of restricted free agent rights that start kicking in after they hit the 40 game mark. So in Jackai's case, when you're comparing him and Kovacevic on the ice wise, yeah, Jackai has a few mental lapses. Kovacevic here is this, and that, and you start comparing the on ice. Then if you switch to the off ice, then it starts. You have to start thinking of the future of the team. Do we rather have Jackai go in Laval, improve his game, plus he won't hit the 40 game mark, and we'll have more leverage in contract negotiations, or do we get rid of Kovacevic but we lose him on waivers? You
Right.
know what I mean? And if he stays on the team, then we don't have to worry he's already on his whatever deal he's on,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's definitely like it's not a bad problem to have, right? Because I think in both cases, even though it wouldn't be ideal to put Kovacevic on waivers and have him potentially get claimed, I do think that having that decision to make between a young player trying to prove himself and a waiver wire pickup that ended up working out is not the
Mhm.
worst decision to be making in times like these, especially where Montreal is, playing pretty well but are still in the bottom third ish of the standings. They're not pressed up against the wall like I mentioned before, to make this move.
I'm gonna throw you another scenario here.
Let's do it.
Today, I don't know if you saw the news, but Marc-Andre Fleury he's hurt, so
He hit
he'll
the
be out a
IR.
significant. Yeah, he'll hit a significant amount of time. He'll
Yep,
be
at
out.
least a week.
Sorry, a week.
At least.
Oh, I thought it was more.
I think the IR, if I'm not mistaken, the IR is at least a week, but I could
No,
be
no, but
wrong.
his actual injury, I thought it was a few weeks.
Oh, okay, yeah, it might be. I don't know if I saw the news on that yet. I just know that he hit the IR, so I knew that the
Okay.
IR meant at least a week.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay,
you
but
might be right.
anyways, I was gonna use Minnesota as an example, but we can use
Sure.
any team that needs a goalie,
Okay, let's do it.
right? Do you have one on top of your head except for Minnesota?
Mm, yeah, Minnesota's struggling heavily.
Let's just say Minnesota, okay?
Okay, yeah, let's use them as an example.
So Minnesota, Bill Guerin, he calls Kent Hughes. What's the price on Jake Allen? That's what he asks. Are you open to dealing him? 'Cause in my opinion, it should be a guy on the block. He's just playing amazing hockey.
Mhm.
He's showing that he could be that guy in the number one role. Montembeau is still putting up good numbers. It's a team that's I'm not saying like trying to lose, but they're not. I don't know. They're not competing in a way that they'll do extremely well. So if you can fetch from a desperate team a high end draft pick or a B B level A level prospect,
Mhm.
I'd do it. I, do you really need a guy a wall making 40 saves every night?
No, I don't think so.
Right?
Like I think that moving on from Allen, I think the toughest thing to do, right, is to have a Montembeau Primo stack in nets. And
Well, it
again,
doesn't have to be Primo. You can kind of go get another guy because I wouldn't want Primo to be the backup.
no, neither would I. But I'm just saying with what we have to work with at this point in
Oh,
time,
at this moment,
that would
yeah, at
be
this point
the
in
case,
time, yeah,
right? But
yeah.
I do think that, like, again, it's not Allen's playing well enough to fetch something. Like, when I say something, I mean something significant.
especially with that contract, 100%.
Right. So it's just a question of, is Montreal does Montreal, you have to look from a point, do they benefit from losing Allen, but having a guy like Montembeault be their starter for the rest of the season? Not because they're gonna lose, not because he's significantly worse and they're gonna lose games, but is does Montembeault staying in net, like, what are the effects that that has on a guy like Montembeault, and what are the effects that that has on whoever his backup may be? Because they might have to resort to him at some point. And I just think that Allen
Yeah.
is able to hold down the fort for 45 to 55 games.
Mhm.
Which, look, we might see some regression, right? And I think that's what we're expecting to see, considering right now is his sell high. That's this
Yeah,
right.
that's why I'm saying it, right?
Yeah. So it's a tough situation, because also I think that Allen's the type of guy that brings a team together, right? When he
Yeah.
goes out and makes a 35 has a 35 save win with 1 goal against, and and Montreal ends up winning 3-1, for example. It's a good character building, you know, experience. It definitely affects that.
Yeah, and I think the plan was to have him, what does he have, 3 years left in his deal or whatever he signed the extension?
Right.
I'm sure the plan was to have him for that period amount of that many years so that he can stay, be consistent, build confidence through good efforts on the ice, and then, bring in that next guy who would take on the challenge.
Mhm.
That's, in my opinion, that's a great plan, to keep him
Yeah,
here and do
100%.
that. But at the same time, if I get a call from a desperate GM saying I'm in need of a goalie, I'll give you my first round pick.
Yeah, Mark, I think you got to. I think
You
you
like,
have
you know
to.
what I mean? Even if it's the 24th overall pick, hello, like,
I don't think it matters. I think, look, again, I think your point is more than valid, right? I think the plan was, look, right now he has 1 year left at 2.875, and then his next contract kicks in at 3.885, and which expires after the 2024-2025 season. And I think you're right. I think the plan was to have that contract expire and, pass the torch to the next guy in line. But again, I think that it's really hard to shy away from a good return on him, especially at this point in time. And I think and I hope that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon are aware of the fact that, and I'm sure they are, because if we are, they definitely are.
yeah.
That you got to sell high in this type of market. When teams are needy and you have players that are playing well that fit those holes on other teams, you gotta be knocking at their door and be on their be at their doorstep.
hmm Especially that the Canadians are in a bit of like salary cap hell. So
Right. At this point in time, right, you're dealing with $2.5 million, give or take, but that's that's Matheson's coming off the IR, and but no, he's not on LTIR, so that doesn't really
no,
matter.
no,
But yeah, it's interesting. Look, there's a lot of guys. Like, look, Mark, I think we can both agree, and I want to hear what you have to say about this. But I think we can both agree that we saw this type of situation coming to a certain extent, right? We talked about this before the season even started. We talked about Monahan. We talked about Hoffman. We talked about Drouin potentially, but we'll scratch that name off the list. But I guess the one name that we didn't really talk about was the potential of moving Allen. But I think we were expecting that Montreal at one point in time throughout the season was going to play above its standards. And when they play above their standards, and when certain players play above their standards, teams are going to be there asking and asking for a price on these players. So I think we were both expecting that.
yeah. Honestly, and the same thing at the start of the season. Look, I had, or even now, I had people telling me like, Mark, this team's actually like playing well. They're playing good. We need Bedard. We need Fantilli. They need a top 3 pick. I agree. They need a top 5 pick, in my opinion. Like the situation moving forward, to me, the value of losing now. Well, we were talking about this last year.
Yeah.
The value of losing now is much greater than winning a few hockey games this season that everyone's going to forget about next year.
Hmm.
No one's going to remember these games. Obviously, it's fun to see the players enjoy playing hockey, and like I'll never shy away from that point being so valuable. But if they go out there and lose 3-2 hockey games and put in the effort, sure. Or they go out on a Saturday night, they snag a win from the Penguins, sure, that's fun. But I don't think it's sustainable the way they're going to play like they did against the Penguins a few nights ago. And just that what we saw from the game against the Devils, a team that was literally passing the puck to the guys in the white shirts. that's the type of game we're probably gonna see moving forward. It's a bunch of, I don't know, it's 2 different, it's youngsters trying to prove a point, and then veterans who are trying to get their game back on track to possibly be dealt. So you're
Mhm.
dealing with 2 completely different scenarios on one team, and I don't know if it's gonna stay the same way, whether look, they could keep winning for all I know. I don't know the future, but I personally hope that we get to a point where the Canadians are able to deal some players and gain assets, while also keeping that culture where, we're not gonna back down, we're gonna keep winning, we're gonna keep pushing, but at the same time, slowly make your way down the standings. Because I
Right.
think at the end of the day, the way this draft is lining up, in 3 years' time, I don't wanna be looking back as a Habs fan and saying, "Why were we trying to win?" Or, "Why was there so much emphasis on winning when this guy would be our number 1 left wing or our number 1 center or our," you know what I mean?
100%. It's really tough to keep to do everything, sometimes, right? It's like you don't want to be winning, but you want your young guys to produce and you want your older guys to prove a point and
Yeah.
go out and rise
W
get their trait stock up.
when they do
But
that, you win, so, like,
right,
you know
so
what I
it's
mean?
it's it's unfortunately there's a direct correlation between the two most of the times.
Mhm.
But you know what? To your point, also, I think that there's I like kind of just to complement what you were saying. If you look at it, this team is young. This team is young. We do have a few veteran presences, but for the most part, we have a young team. And I think as the season goes on, right, we're only what is it, 16 games into the season, 16 games into the season. Once you start hitting that, we talked about this a lot when we talked about Montreal getting to the playoffs and you wanting a guy like Sherratt, right, on your team who can log the big minutes. But by game 82, he's done. His body is done. I think the same could be said about the Montreal Canadiens being a young team and the learning curve that they're going to experience once you hit game 35, game 40, game 45. When you hit those games, your body, like these younger kids are used to playing a very fast paced game against a lesser competition. Now you're playing against the best of the best, 82 games a year. You're on the road. You're always moving. You're always trying to improve. And I think the Jack guys, the Harris and Gooley might be the only exception to the rule here. But a few of these guys it's gonna hit them at some point throughout the season. I'm not saying that that's a guarantee, but I am saying that we should be weary of the fact that this Montreal Canadiens team is not going to float around above 500 for the rest of the season. I can promise you that, and I hope I don't eat my words here, but I genuinely believe that. So I think that we should, you know, temper our expectations, not expect that this success to continue throughout the whole season.
It's usually the California trip that just kills it,
Yep.
right? It's
And
usually that
and
trip.
the West Coast trip out to
Vegas?
Vancouver, out
Oh,
to
the
Vancouver.
West Coast in Canada. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Canada West, because that those
Yeah.
are those are late nights, and that's something that I mean, again, the time change,
For
right? But
us, yeah.
for us, but for them also, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
the jet lag, and you having to play the next day. I know they get used to it, but these young players are not necessarily used to that. They're used to
Mhm.
playing in the OHL or the WHL, where most of the games are within their respective regions.
Yeah.
And I'm not, again, it depends. You go a little bit farther east, west, depending, but for the most part, you're not making a trip out to California. I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
Speaking about the Canucks and bad teams, let's talk a bit about the standings. I know you mentioned it before we started.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know what the exercise you wanted to do was, but
Yeah.
I'll let you take over
Well,
here.
yeah, so kind of what I wanted to do was Montreal right now in the NHL sits 18th in the league. So probably a little bit better than we had expected through 16 games.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of teams behind them currently that are clearly underperforming. And I wanted to just do a fun little game where I'm gonna go through all the teams that are behind them, and I'm gonna ask you, will this team? So I'll say team Team A, for example, are they going to finish above or below Montreal in the standings by the end of the season?
Okay.
And then by the end of this, based off of whatever you say and whatever I say, also, we'll kind of see how many teams we said are going to finish above and where that would leave Montreal by the end of the season. And we'll see, if we can how accurate we are
Yeah.
we
Okay.
can see
Cool.
how accurate we were.
Cool.
So I'll start off, and you can kind of just get, and maybe I'll chime in once you're done your
Okay.
answer. All right. So Calgary in 19th.
Yeah, they're gonna finish above the Canadians.
I would like to think so.
I
Okay.
think I think so as well. Yeah.
Minnesota
Above.
above. And just
Yeah.
to touch on them for a second, I remember, so I had Kaprizov winning the Hart, which hasn't looked good so far, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
Minnesota, I did say that I'm not saying, "Oh, I told you so," but I I did think that, they were gonna flirt with potentially being in the top 3 of their division, and right now they're not looking too good. They're not looking too good.
Sorry, on Minnesota, what were your thoughts on the Marco Rossi hit on Slavkovsky? Do
The
you
Marco
remember that hit?
Rossi hit on Slavkovsky.
At the end of the game where he was at the red line and Rossi just decked him into the boards?
Right, I vaguely remember that. That was very early on in the season, correct?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I'd have to go rewatch it, but why? He wasn't was he penalized for that?
He wasn't, but I don't a lot of people look, I'm a Habs fan, but at the same time, I didn't like the way Slavkovsky let up. He kinda, like, straightened his back out and just, like, thought, like, "This guy can't hit me," and Rossi actually absolutely decked him into the
He's
boards, and he got hurt.
he's very bottom heavy. Like, he's very
Yeah,
strong. He's very strong
yeah.
core.
But anyways, yeah, people were kind of freaking out on that, and I'm
Hmm.
like, "Well,
I'd have to go
it's."
rewatch it to be honest
Yeah.
with you, but I'll check it out. All right, so that's 2
Okay.
teams now that we can agree that would finish ahead of Montreal.
Okay.
Washington.
Yeah, head of Montreal.
Okay, that's 3. Chicago.
Below.
I'm gonna go with below as well. I think
Yeah, I
that
think
look again. They're about 500 too, but I think that they're overperforming a little bit.
yeah.
Okay, this one's an interesting one. Nashville.
I still think they finish above. I see them making, like, a nice some few, like, a few acquisitions at the deadline or near the deadline. Saros finally finds his way or his
Mhm.
game, and, uh and yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think so as well, but you know what? Just for the sake of the exercise, I'll go with below.
Really?
I think that their team overperformed a lot last year, and I think that
Okay.
without Saros, their team is a mess. But I think that right now they have a 7th round rookie as their first line center, and I don't think Johansson can necessarily get it done as the 2C. I like Forsberg. Granlund, I think, is a top 6 guy, but I don't think he's suited for that first line role. Duchesne. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole team here, but all I'm saying
Yeah.
is that they overperform. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay,
So
fair.
I'll go with under here. Next on the list, Pittsburgh.
I'm gonna go over again,
I'm going to go over here.
over the Canadians, yeah.
Yeah. San Jose.
I'm gonna go below the Canadians.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can
Yeah, I
agree with
just
that.
don't see, especially if they trade, Carlson, which is the
Can we
rumor
talk
now.
about that for a second?
We can, because 'cause I'd love to, because I find it very fascinating and very smart that the Sharks are taking advantage of this
As they should,
opportunity.
right? As they
Like,
should.
if I'm, the GM, sorry, I forget his name, he's brand new,
Yeah, I'll get that for you.
and his brother's the GM of the Dolphins, I think. Anyways,
Right.
if I'm him and I get the job and I look at this team and I go, "How am I gonna trade Brent Burns and Eric Carlson's
Name's
contract?"
Mike
And he
Greer, by the way. Sorry, just to
Mike
cut you off.
Greer,
Yeah.
exactly. And he trades Burns' contract, which is amazing, but now he's like, "No, this is impossible to trade Carlson's, right? We're gonna be stuck with this guy." And he goes out there and absolutely lights it up. He looks like prime Carlson. Obviously, I'm calling everyone I know. Are you interested in this guy? I'll
For sure.
retain. This is literally the only chance you'll have to get rid of this contract.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
It's like a blessing in this. It's like a blessing for this guy to have
it's
him go off.
it's incredible, and you know what? Look, I understand that it took a little bit longer to heal from that Achilles, but it's nice to see him in a power play one
Oh yeah.
role,
Mhm.
top line minutes, and he's always been that skilled, right? So it's great to see, and I think that this all this begs the question: what team could actually acquire him at the deadline? Because a lot of teams are actually pressed against the cap right now, and I
Mhm.
think that even with retaining half the salary, you're still looking at about $4 million, even upwards, right? He's on a
Upwards, yeah. He makes 11.
right. So there you go. So if you're
Yeah.
retaining half, you're at 5.5.
Mhm.
So that's another 5.5 that you're adding to your team. Now I'm sure the teams that will inquire about trading for him will move some pieces around to try and
Yeah.
to make it work. But there's not many teams that could make it work. I
I
don't
heard
think.
Dorian called.
That's funny.
Imagine that.
Reunion. That would be a great send off. Hopefully, like I mean send off. He's not retiring, but I mean like his last few years in the NHL to be in Ottawa.
Well,
That would be pretty cool.
imagine getting Stützle and Norris for Carlson and train back for him.
Yeah, I wonder what they'd have to give up. What do you think his price tag is right now in the ballpark?
The first.
You got to think a first and a great prospect. No,
Yeah, but even if they're retaining at the same time,
right?
well,
So
if
I guess
they're,
that lowers
yeah.
the value a little bit.
Well, I think it makes it higher, right? If he's
Sorry,
retaining.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I meant yes. Sorry, because
If
you're
they don't retain, then I'd say I'm not giving you this prospect. You know what I mean?
right. Exactly, for
But
sure.
yeah, it
So
would be. I think it'd still be pretty hefty. I'm not gonna lie.
You gotta think. It's funny because if I asked you this question last year this time or maybe
I'd
15
laugh in
games
your
from now,
face. I'd
you'd be
literally
like,
laugh
"What are
in
you?"
your
You'd be
face.
like, "What are you talking about?"
I wouldn't even
Like
give you bag of pucks.
yeah. Anyway, we'll
By the
move
way,
on.
did you
Yeah.
hear that, apparently John Klingberg was offered a one-year deal by the Canadiens?
And he went to Anaheim instead?
That would have been a sneaky, sneaky acquisition.
And you can I give you my bold-ish take here? I think that
Sure.
he would have done a lot better in Montreal than he's doing right now in Anaheim.
Matt, on that
Not
power
like
play?
not like he's doing well right now, but I think that Klingberg, like, yeah, I think it would have benefited him. But again, I mean, we
That
have
would
a
have been
hard
good for the
time.
Canadiens to have him on the power play and you deal him at the deadline. Oh, yeah.
You would
That would
you
have
would
been
have got
good.
you would have got a hefty return from a
Yeah,
from
for
a
a top
from a
pairing
team like
defenseman.
from a team like even whether it's Toronto or whether it's I mean
Oh,
again they're
yeah,
pressed
you
against the
gotta
cap,
fleece
but
the Leafs, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Take advantage of their little situation.
There's actually another name coming up that I want to talk about in two teams on this list. So right now, just to give the listeners an update, we've had one, two, three and a half because
Chose
I said
Nashville.
Nashville. So three and a half, four, no, three and a half, four and a half, four and a half teams that will finish against ahead of Montreal. But let's say Nashville finishes ahead, so that's five total teams, and we still have
We'll just
seven.
say one below right now, right? We only chose Chicago.
Right. That yeah. I don't know why I'm counting all the ones that are
Yeah,
going ahead. Yes, one below
one
as of
below.
right now. Okay, let's
Yeah,
continue. Buffalo.
below.
I'm going ahead. I'm
Really?
going ahead.
You think you turn it around?
Look, I think that they're almost 500. They're 7-9-0. I don't think that they're playing I don't think that they're playing bad hockey, and I think that they're a
Yeah.
team that's going to play with very little expectations. I think that they're a team that has a lot to prove, especially with all those young guys. Cousins, Thompson, Skinner, Tuck. Tuck loves it there. Tuck wants to show that this organization is relevant.
Hometown boy.
And Rasmus Dahlin, what a player.
I love him. I love
Exceptional.
that kid.
Yeah, he's amazing. But
Uh,
I just think that there's a possibility where like Buffalo is just out to prove something. They go on a nice little winning
no, no,
streak.
I agree. Yeah,
You
it's a good point. Yeah.
But again, we can say let's just say for the sake of this experiment that they will finish ahead of Montreal.
Okay. Okay.
Um, next on this list, and this is a team that I wanted to talk about a little bit just based off of recent news, but Arizona,
What are you gonna talk about? The mullet?
Jacob Chikrin,
Oh,
he seems to be practicing. He seems that there's a potential return for next week. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm saying if he's healthy, what is the price tag on that guy? Because it doesn't seem like Arizona's GM is budging.
I think it's a first two top level prospects, maybe something else. Like I think that price is ridiculous. Honestly, good for them because that contract is so good that anyone receiving this type of player for that amount of money would should be laughing. Like that's an amazing.
4.6 million for the next
It,
3.
it's amazing. It's an, like if I'm Kyle Dubas, I'm like I wish I had a defenseman like this.
But you know
Could you
what's funny?
imagine? Could you
Yeah.
imagine that contract on your blue line?
I think it might be I don't want to don't want to don't take my word for it, but I want to say that it might be the best defenseman contract in the NHL right now. No?
Yeah,
Debatably?
maybe. Yeah, especially that the market's so high for defensemen for no reason.
Right. It's like, "Oh, here nurse,
Well,
let
not
me
for
just
no
let me
reason.
just
Obviously, they're important, but I'm just looking at the guy like Seth Jones who got thrown money at him.
right, let's just throw money at Darnell Nurse also, like,
Yeah.
we're out of nowhere." But yeah, 100%. So, I think that that's an interesting topic. I think that, but a lot of teams are concerned with his health because he doesn't seem to get injured pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And I think that teams are worried that, if we trade all these big assets, is he gonna be able to stay healthy for us and provide?
Well, I'd get hurt too if my training facility was a college one that I'm not allowed to use. So like,
I mean, I know
they're not allowed to use it. Like
that's
because
so
like
strange.
college players, NCAA are not allowed to use NHL facilities, so no one's allowed to share the equipment. Where if you get hurt, where are you supposed to go?
Right.
There's like in the locker room, there's a little sheet on the floor.
Yeah, with a nice little yoga mat. That's all you
Yeah,
get.
that's what it is. That's what it is next to your stool. That's your
It
seat. That's your changing
it's a
room.
joke. I've heard there's a lot of talk about them playing in, I don't wanna mispronounce this, but Tempe or Temp?
Yeah, but even at that, apparently they're it's like actually very soon. I think it's the end of the month where the
They're
city's gonna
making a decision?
approve. We're gonna approve it or not
Mhm.
the plan. But I was listening to the plan.
Oh, I wanna hear
Like,
this.
okay, let's say you're the mayor of Tempe or Temp, whatever it is, and I'm the owner of the Arizona Coyotes, and I come up to you and I say, "Hi, sir, I want to build an extremely expensive project, a huge arena in Tempe." And he goes, "Okay, that's cool." Tell me about why you wanted to move out or why you moving arenas. Oh, I don't pay my taxes. I wasn't able to afford the arena, but I want to build this huge project, and apparently he wants to do it on top of an oil um, field. So they have to dig out the whole field.
Yeah, that does not sound.
So are you going to approve that for me, please? By the way, I can't even sell at a college arena, so
Yeah, that's brutal. That's really brutal. And I think
like,
that I think Gary Bettman needs to get on this ASAP. I mean, this situation is really escalating, and it's not a good look on the
he seems
NHL.
pretty calm. He seems pretty calm.
Yeah, well, I don't think that it warrants being calm. But
The
anyway,
only way this gets saved,
is if they relocate.
no, is if 34 joins their team.
But even at that, I don't. Well, yeah, sure, it
That
does.
saves them. It
But
saves
again,
them.
okay,
They literally get
but
everything.
let's be real here. They do need to relocate, and not and outside the state.
Well, apparently there's a fan base there. I just don't. I don't see it. Maybe I have to go to. You want to go to Tempe? Maybe
But
we'll find a
they're
time.
obviously but obviously the NHL commissioner and Bill Daly are gonna come out and yeah, I mean, sorry, Bettman and Daly are gonna come out and say, "Yeah, there's a massive fan base for the Arizona Coyotes in Arizona." Like that's I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I believe that there are a handful of fans. When I say handful, I mean like in terms of thousands, like there's thousands, but you can't tell me that there's enough to sustain an NHL team in Arizona.
I want to
I
see. I want to see like Houston.
right? Like but even
That'd be a
Seattle,
cool market.
look, like I know that obviously they expanded to Seattle, but they have to go out here and if they were to relocate to somewhere where it doesn't have necessarily have to be a massive hockey market, but at least a medium range, a medium sized hockey market
Yeah,
that can sustain an NHL team. And I don't think Arizona's getting it done. And I think that's being proven day in and day out. But the NHL just turns a blind eye because, I mean, is one team necessarily affecting the health of the National Hockey League? Not really.
yeah. The trend seems to be let's put a hockey team where there isn't like a big basketball team, or like Seattle has their MLB team. That's pretty much it.
And they have
Vegas,
football.
Vegas. Oh, it's true. They have the Seahawks. What am I saying?
Yeah,
But they have no NBA team.
right.
Then Vegas had nothing. The NHL was the first team to go there,
Mhm.
and now obviously the Raiders showed up. And in my opinion, it's not going to be Quebec. That's 100%. It's
No,
not
no
going to be that.
chance.
For those that are still praying, it's
No,
not going to happen.
there's no
A-
chance.
And it
Or very
like I'm
little chance,
sorry,
sorry.
yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be in Canada. Well, I see people on Twitter bring them to Halifax. Who the hell's going to go to Halifax?
But that's even worse than Arizona,
I'm sure it's
right? Like,
beautiful over there. No, I'm sure it's
can I
beautiful. I'm sure they have hardcore fans, but the league needs money here, and I'm sure in Texas and Houston, that'd be pretty cool in my opinion.
Well, funny enough, I actually read an article that talked at length about the potential expansion. I know this is not expansion, this is technically relocation, but it's along the same vein about having teams in Europe. And I know that that's a project and a half, and
Wow.
it does bring about a lot of potential problems, right? Whether it's
Mhm.
traveling and whatnot. But I do think that look at all these teams in Europe that are successful in terms of fan bases and successful in terms of these smaller cities or smaller regions that have an exciting fan base that are willing to throw money at the sport. Like
Mhm.
what Arizona has a football team, one that we can both agree is more popular than their hockey team, and they have a baseball
Yeah,
team as well in the Diamondbacks. So
it's
again, I
true.
don't.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that you go to these European cities that are very passionate for the sport of hockey and don't necessarily have teams in North American leagues at all. Like again, it's a project, but it's something to think about. It's something to think about because
Yeah.
you could have a way more competitive league because these bottom feeder teams like Arizona are rarely. Again, I don't know when we'll ever see some success in Arizona hockey aside from ASU.
Aside for AM34.
Yeah, but we'll see. It's a cool topic.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next.
Yep.
Vancouver.
Um, it's a tricky one
Will
because
Demko turn it around? I mean,
will Demko turn around or Boudreaux be out? Or are they
will
gonna
JT
bring
Miller
in?
start playing some defense? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Who
really
knows?
don't know.
I'm gonna say that they finish I'm gonna say they finish over the Canadiens.
Yeah, I was gonna go that same
I
route.
see them going on like a weird 8-game win streak.
They do it. I feel like is that not something they do every year?
I feel like they do it.
They fire their coach. Bruce Boudreau comes in. They're chanting, "Bruce, there it is." Pederson,
Now they're gonna
JT
fire
Miller,
him. They're gonna bring
Besser.
in Rick Tocchet, and then yeah,
See, I don't like, and this is another topic. I don't like the coaching carousel. You got it. Look, you bring in a look. I know it's one
who
small
hired him?
example.
Was
Talkit?
it? Yeah,
Sorry,
no.
Boudreau.
Was it the new management group? It had to have been right.
I want to
Yeah,
say yes. I want to say yes. Yeah,
because they took out Benning and Green, Travis
yeah. I'm
Green.
pretty sure it
Yeah,
was. I'm pretty sure it was Alvin
yeah, probably
and
him or
company.
Rutherford. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I think that like look what the Habs did. They went with an unproven NHL level coach, and it's working in their favor. I'm not saying that every team is going to be able to hit on that type of coach, but you don't know unless you try. You know what
Yeah.
you're getting in a guy like Rick Tocchet. You know what you're getting in a guy like Bruce Boudreau. Like, why not change it up a little bit? Give
Mhm.
a different view. But that's my 2 cents there on that. Um, okay, on to the next. These are getting interesting now. Two of these next
Yeah.
four teams are interesting. St. Louis.
Well, honestly, the last time the St. Louis Blues were bottom of the league, they won the cup.
There you go.
So, I'm not counting them out.
But they've also
As
won three in a row. They just beat Colorado. I think that they're okay.
they're fine. They're fine.
Can we talk about how
Above Montreal.
above? Yeah. Can we
Yeah.
talk about how many teams there are that are like just about 500?
Yeah, and look, there's even like Seattle's in 11th in the league. Detroit's 15th. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of movement. Even Winnipeg to me is exceeding expectations.
And what about Colorado? Maybe
LA looks good. I'm not
Colorado's eight
surprised.
five and one. They're not looking again. 8-5-1 is not a bad record, but they're not looking like the powerhouse that won the cup last year.
Yeah,
That's for
even the
sure.
Rangers. The Rangers don't look that good
No,
either.
and neither does Tampa, and neither do. I mean, the Leafs are sixth in the league, but I mean, still, they don't look great.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about the Leafs.
Yeah.
We can stay off that topic.
Yeah.
Next,
Start a whole new podcast with that topic.
next, Ottawa.
Above. Above. I
You'd
think
like
he's
to
gonna
think
make a
so, right?
splash. He's gonna make a move. They're gonna get their goalie back now. Everything's gonna start rolling.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Unfortunately, they
Yeah.
lost Bot to injury. He hit the IR with a concussion for about a week, but Jake Sanderson seems to be coming in and logging some big minutes and
Mhm.
playing very well. And I keep seeing on Twitter people comparing Gooley to Sanderson. Like, what's with the comparisons? Like, why can't they just be good in their own?
Why can't you just enjoy your own player
I
for
know,
once,
right?
you
Like,
know?
why does it have to be like? Why do we have to wait so long for Gooley to be good, just for him to be good, and then you start comparing him to Sanderson and
Yeah,
vice versa? Like, who cares? You
who
know. But
cares?
that's my opinion. Um, okay, so that's another team that we put above. These next two teams are interesting. Columbus.
Columbus, I'm gonna go below. I think
Yeah,
they're gonna be in the sweepstakes for Connor Bedard.
I think they're awful. With all due respect, I think
Like,
they're
I
awful.
don't think they're um if you gave me like the sheet of their roster and I looked at these players and I said I could say this is a good player, this is a good player, this is a good player.
Can you
Like
though?
they'll be
Is
good
that valid?
in like 2 years. This team's and especially if they get a top 3 pick. Could you imagine if you had Fantilli with Kent Johnson? They're gonna have Michigan up there with
Oh
Kent
yeah,
Johnson, with Cole Sillinger, Johnny Gaudreau, Werenski on D. Like this is a good core, a very good core. Right now they're garbage.
yeah. And Merzlikins looks really bad. I mean, he just got injured last night, but he looks
Yeah.
really like it's weird how bad he looks. And like and I guess you lose Werenski to a pretty gruesome injury,
Mhm.
which sucks for them. But yeah, looking up and down their lineup, like they're obviously thin in their bottom six, but I think that going forward, I think in the future
Yeah,
they'll
going
definitely be
forward,
able to be good.
like they can make a crazy jump next season out of nowhere. Like I wouldn't even be surprised because
100%. Like like guys like Kent Johnson, Chinakov, Sillinger. Those are the
Mhm.
guys that you're trying to build around, and Goudreau and
Yeah.
Werenski and whatever. But the second that those guys mature
Line.
in age, yeah, Line. Sorry, he's not even. Sorry, it's just because
Yeah.
he's not even in the
He's
lineup right
hurt,
now. But
yeah.
yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I think, but for this year, I'd say below.
Especially now that they lost their number 1 defenseman.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a tough loss. Okay, and lastly, Anaheim.
I'm gonna say below.
Okay, I agree with that one also.
Yeah.
They're a team that has nothing to lose. They're just
They're
playing
a
to play.
boring franchise, man.
They are boring. But I
And I
like
know
but
they're like
but
Zegras
Zegras
is the new
McTavish
poster boy.
is fun.
Yeah, but yeah, that's fun. Drysdale.
Okay.
They'll be good soon,
So Mark,
hopefully.
out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, I'm not counting this. Let's just say there are 1, we'll count Nashville as below, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7 NHL franchises that we have predicted that will finish below the Montreal Canadiens in the standings this season, putting them at 25th in the league.
Mhm.
Very, I was about to say very similar to where they finished last year, but I think it was very similar to where they finished a few years ago. But actually, when they ended up going to the playoffs in the bubble, but yeah, 25th in the league. Is that in your opinion, Mark, good enough to potentially secure a good enough player that would
Well,
be? Yes, they can
are you
always
ta
jump, but my
there's
question
odds,
is that
yeah, we're playing
okay?
with
But
odds here.
let's say they were to pick seventh,
Stay. Oh,
seventh.
7th?
Well, because if
I'm
there's
not
32
mad with
teams,
7th. I'm not
okay,
mad with 7th, but I'd be praying
that they jump,
for a jump. So that's
100%.
why if they could finish at the
I mean,
28th mark,
I'm
maybe.
gonna be praying for a jump at 14. You know what I mean? Like any team is gonna be praying.
Well, yeah, well, not 14. For 14, you're in the
Sorry,
playoffs.
four. Well,
Yeah,
no, but
yeah.
like four,
Oh,
like
14
in the
from the bottom up. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Okay,
yes,
yeah. No, yeah, but no one's gonna move from there. It just I look at the Devils and I'm like, why are they on a 9-game or 10-game win streak? They have 2 first overall picks, a second overall pick in the coming. They signed a top pairing defenseman in free agency. When's
John Marino was a great trade for them as
Don
well.
Marino? Then I look at the Rangers. I'm like, well, why were the Rangers so good last year? Well, they had a first overall pick, a second overall pick, a top name free agent. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there's a trend. There's a trend here.
You look at how it's a very simple way that teams become competitive and stay good and sustain
Yeah.
success, right?
Why
And I
were the
think that
Penguins so good? They had a first overall goalie, a franchise first overall center, a second overall franchise center. You know what I mean? It's like, hello, you got to
yeah,
draft. You got to. I know you got to draft well, but you also got to be lucky and draft high and
right,
hit on those high picks.
absolutely. Do we
But
want to talk about Slavkovsky and through his
we could talk
first?
quickly.
Yeah, just quickly. I was gonna
Then we'll do like a quick rapid fire or something. End it
let's
off.
do it.
Um,
Slavkovsky's played 11 games, by the way. He's had 3 goals, no assists. He's currently a -1. He's taken 19 penalty minutes, and he's averaging about 11 minutes per game.
I like it. I like the way he's playing. I
I
don't
think
mind it. He's creating chances for himself. I like what he's doing on the power play. That he's slowly integrating himself and he's shooting. He looks confident. There was a when he wasn't there because of suspension, you noticed it, and I think that's super important that you noticed that an 18-year-old kid wasn't in your lineup.
mhm,
So I don't know. I kind of I like the fact that he's slowly doing his thing. Um, but like who knows what it's gonna look like once they hit the mid-season mark.
right, absolutely. With those young players, you never know. But I
Hmm.
think it's important to also note that he's gotten better every game he's played in my opinion. He's looked better. I mean, from
Yep.
game 1 to game 11.
That
I
goal
mean,
against St. Louis. Oh god, what a shot!
yeah, what a great shot. I mean,
What
you
a
put him
shot!
again, it's a question of putting him in positions to succeed, and you'll
Mhm.
see your young players do well. We're not saying that Slavkovsky needs to automatically be playing 20 minutes a night, right? Because
No,
that's too much for an 18-year-old in the NHL. But playing 11 minutes, 12 minutes a game, playing, maybe a minute and a half of power play every
earning your
game,
minutes. I think that's
earning your
huge to
minutes,
earn
right?
your minutes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you look at his time on ice in the past games. He's been trending upwards in terms of minutes on a game to game basis. So he's earning his minutes clearly, and I think St. Louis sees that, and
Mhm.
he's playing in he's playing a little bit of power play. So liking that so far.
Shane Wright looks good. Anyways, we'll do we'll do rapid
A
fire. I don't know
subtle
if you have
shot.
one on the top of your head.
Um, putting me on the spot here, Mark.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I can think
Oh,
of
really? It could be like one question. It could be one rapid fire question. Like
okay,
it doesn't have to be three.
but right, yeah. Well, I don't know, Mark. Do you have any for me?
Um, I don't. So we'll just do. You know what we'll do? We'll just do bold predictions for tomorrow night's game.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
I was maybe going to ask you actually if in your opinion who is if you had to pick like if one player if you were to get a notification on your phone in
Yeah.
5 at 7 o'clock 7 p.m. Eastern time that
Mhm.
says the Montreal Canadiens have traded this player, who is it in your opinion? Who's the first to go? Like who's the guy that's leaving? And like not who you want to go, who you think is the first guy out of
Okay.
the door.
Evgeny Dadonov.
Genny Dadonov first out the door.
Yeah.
And do you have a potential landing spot, or not that that's part of the rapid fire? Just
I don't, but I have one for Drouin.
You think that he gets traded this season?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
interesting.
Washington Capitals.
It's not a bad fit whatsoever.
Just it seems like the perfect spot for him.
I think it makes sense, but I honestly I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to Jonathan Drouin. I just don't know if there's any spot for Jonathan Drouin anywhere.
No, I
But again, it's not look, it's not based off of who he is as a person and who he like. It's about what
well,
he provides,
maybe
what he brings to what he brings on the ice.
maybe Syracuse.
But seriously though, it's incredible how we give this guy we give Jonathan Drouin the benefit of the doubt every single season, and it never works out. So I think it's time to move on. And if we lose him
Mhm,
in free agency, you lose him in free agency. If you can get compensation for a mid-year, you get compensation for a mid-year. But I do think that that's actually a decent fit. I think that they're. I think funny enough, I think the uh the Washington Capitals are a little bit thin. They're a little bit thin outside of Ovechkin
mhm.
and Kuznetsov. I mean, Oshie's always hurt. Dylan Strome was a good pickup, but
Yep.
I could see a potential fit.
All
Um,
right. Tomorrow
bold
night,
predictions?
Habs Blue Jackets in Columbus. I'm gonna say that the cannon goes off 6 times with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they beat the Canadians 6-2.
My God,
I'm gonna
why do you
say
why do you have to
I
do
don't know.
that?
I just have a weird I have PTSD from that 10 goal game. Um,
Jeez, man.
I think the I'm gonna
That's
say here's my bold prediction that Johnny Gaudreau gets 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists, and
4
I'll say
goals?
no, 4 points,
Oh,
two
sorry.
goals, 2 assists, but 1 goal from Jonathan Kovacevic.
This doesn't get bolder, but
Yeah, that's like a like those crazy parlays.
yeah, like look, I might as well post it on Twitter again and hope it hits.
You're
Um,
lose followers.
all right, my bold prediction is I'm going with a 3-0 Montreal Canadiens win and a Samuel Montembeault S word.
So no cannon.
No cannon for the Columbus Blue Jackets on Thursday night. And I
Cool,
think
awesome.
and just to add on to that, I'll give I don't even know if there's anything bold anymore. But you know what? I'm gonna go with goal and assist from Jake Evans. It's been a while. It's been a
Jake and Bake.
while.
Fair enough. And on that note, those are pretty bold. I'm happy. On that
I like
note,
that. Go ahead.
we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Stay safe.